Hello, Freebirds. Welcome to Connect and Refresh, prophetic encouragement for today. My name is Kimberly Woods, and I have Tracy Erwin here with me.
Hi, everybody.
And we are just excited to be with you today on this beautiful Thursday.
Yes.
And we hope that you are just feeling restful, and we want to just bring you some encouragement. And we have a very exciting topic for you today. It is on the pace that God has for each of us. And we know that, sometimes sometimes you can feel overwhelmed by your pace or just kind of a little unsure of your pace. And we believe that God has a pace for each one of us and that it can change per our season, and that he gives us, I believe that, and I know that Tracy does too, that his pace will be for us, and it will actually bless us. And
Yes.
He does. So we want to encourage you today, and we're just going to have a conversation and just share with you some of our experiences with all kinds of things when it has to do with God's pace for you. So we would love to hear just who you are, and if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. We are bringing this Connect and Refresh back every single month, so we will be here once a month with you with a topic that will bring prophetic encouragement, and that is that new message from the Lord of encouragement. And so if you're here for the first time or you're joining us again, we would love to hear who you are. So you can put your name and just where you're joining us from in the comments, and just say hi to each other and welcome each other in. So sometimes we can feel like, you can actually feel your pace, right? You can feel a pace shift. I know that, Tracy and I talk about pace. We talk about pace throughout because we've been friends for several years now. I think it's like 5 years, maybe 4 years, maybe around there. But so 5. Wow. Yeah. So we've had to talk about pace a lot because our pace has changed, and it's always good to be able to hear someone else's experience, because it can make you feel like, oh, okay, nothing's wrong with me, because you can really feel that a pace shift, and sometimes we don't have language to put with it unless God has shown us ahead of time. And so we are going to share even about that, and about how God can tell you ahead of time your pace. I'm not saying he always does. maybe he tells you when he knows, man, she's going to need to know that this is from me, and she's not going to have to guess that this was actually from me. And so we're going to share those kind of things. So if you can relate to that, where have you ever felt God's pace, that shift in your life? And maybe when you felt that, you were overwhelmed by an increased pace, or maybe you felt like you did something wrong because your pace was slower. Anybody? I have. Or like you weren't as fast as you used to be, those kind of things. Or maybe you're just like, what in the world is going on, right? Because your pace can just be different. So we want to bring encouragement there, because I believe that it's important that we have community, and I know Tracy does too, that we have community, and that we can actually ask our questions so we don't feel alone in that. And so we know that that's important. So we're going to dive into just some questions that we prepared, to just go over. So Tracy, I want to just first ask you to share, what is your personal experience with your pace changing? And then how did you handle it? I want to know about what is your personal experience with your pace changing? And then I'll ask you questions on top of that.
Okay. Well, my personal experience, I think, has been, it just depends. It depends on what's going on in my life.
Okay.
So, my pace has kind of been determined by, like when my kids were younger, I definitely had a different pace in my life. So I think a lot of things, God knows what's on our plate. And I believe that he leads us, into times that either we need to slow down or, hey, it's time to run with me.
Yeah.
And I think determining those things and determining just even my own experience in the change of pace in my life really has just been discerned,
Okay.
And so I do believe that discerning times and seasons in your life is like the key to
Yeah.
knowing your pace.
Yeah.
That's what I've discovered in just my own experience of seeing things slow down at times and seeing things kind of speed up. And he wants us to know those things. He wants us to learn the times and seasons in our life. And
Yeah.
that for me has been a huge key in discovering my pace, for where I'm at. And it depends a lot in what's going on. And he leads me in that with his, I listen to him and he leads me. I lean in, I look for things in my life as place markers,
Yeah.
as like, signs like, oh, okay. And like he leaves clues
Yeah,
for
he
me
does.
to discover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can as uh sons and daughters, we can know our pace. We can discern those things. Um, but even like I want to ask you, so when your pace is changing, because before kind of knowing that you could actually be led by God in your pace,
Mm-hmm.
um, how did you feel before? Like when your pace would change, you kind of knew that your
Yeah.
pace was changing, but how did you handle that, like before you kind of knew that God could lead you? After you're a
Yeah.
believer, but before you knew where
Yeah. That's
he
a
leads.
really good question, Kimberly. I think for me, it felt almost like I was in my life kind of swimming upstream
Yeah.
and everything kind of felt out of rhythm. Like
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was in rhythm with my life. Like I was trying to do certain things and through certain things that I probably shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it really was, it was tough. It was difficult. So I think a lot of things became difficult and I was just literally kind of out of pace because I think when we don't know those things, we can either get ahead of God or we can lag behind, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
as a result. So that's kind of been my experience before knowing all those things.
Okay. That's really good because so uh let's say that you didn't let's say that if you're listening to this that you are like, well, I didn't really know fully that
Yeah.
God could lead me in my pace and actually speak to that. So maybe you're feeling that, like where you said it's like uh it is almost that overwhelmed kind of feeling of you can't keep up and or it's slowing down. Like you can, so if you're feeling that shift,
Mm-hmm.
because we're talking about when our pace changes, and then right now we're talking about that is when our pace changes. And so you might be feeling like where maybe you were running a certain pace or walking or whatever and you can't handle it anymore, like
Yeah.
your pace might be changing, um or it's like really slowing down and you
Mm-hmm.
might be feeling like, whoa, what's going on? Did I do something wrong? Just know that God has a pace for you, and I do believe that it's for our good, man, because he
Mm-hmm.
knows what we're about to do. He knows he knows the times and seasons, and he gives us the ability to know the times and seasons. And so that's really where we want to bring that encouragement, is
Yeah.
that you can you can feel those things, and sometimes, and also have the encouragement to talk to others, you know, and they because sometimes you can feel overwhelmed, and you're like, even I might have a change in my pace and be like, what is going on, right? And I have a community, and they remind me, I have
Yeah.
these trusted voices in my life that I go, this is what's going on, and then they're like, oh, that you probably have that, they bring you that encouragement. So we want to be that today. We want to
Yeah,
be
that's
that
good.
to
Yeah,
bring you
I've
that
built
encouragement.
I have built space in my life for feedback,
Yeah.
from the Lord even,
Mhm.
and through other people that kind of, you know, that just kind of helps you guide you through those times where you are feeling those things, where you're feeling like, am I just overwhelmed because I'm doing
Yes.
something new, or am I overwhelmed because I'm out of pace? Yeah.
Right. I
Yeah.
feel like that's a huge key, because you could feel overwhelmed, and it's just you feeling overwhelmed, and you just have to, it's like, just keep going,
Yep.
get in the group, the Lord will
Yeah.
empower you, those type of things. Or it could just be that your pace has changed, and you need to accept it and like embrace it. Oh, and when we hear from God, we can embrace what he's speaking. But even those trusted voices in our life can even bring, whether it's the Lord or,
Yeah.
someone close to us, can bring that encouragement to go, hey, I think your pace is changing, or no, I think you're just overwhelmed. Because you end up knowing each other,
Hmm.
and just, the Lord knows you, and your close people actually know you too. So for me, I'm normally I like my normal, what I feel is, uh, I like slow and steady, I do, but I love to run, and I love to go, go, go. I love to create, I love to do all those things. And
Yeah.
so I can normally tell my pace shift when it starts to slow down. And then I'm like, oh, okay, something's up. And for me, it's normally been a suddenly. It normally doesn't like gradually go. It's like all of a sudden my pace.
Train
Yeah, the
stop
Lord.
and right here.
Yeah, and so I feel like I want to say that God knows you, and He knows, like, He might do that for me, a sudden. Okay, your
Yeah.
pace is because I do like to run, 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 run. Um, but you'll be able to feel it, so you'd be able to ask those questions. It's like the end of a season, I feel like. It's like a
Mhm.
shift. Let me shift their pace a little bit, and he knows what you need.
Mhm.
So how I handled it before, is that, like you were saying, I just didn't kind of know, and then I would feel overwhelmed, or but now I inquire. The difference is now, even if it takes me a moment, even if it takes me, like, what is going on, and I'm questioning it, I
Mhm.
I hear the Lord, and we hear the Lord, and we know what discernment feels. You can discern it, and you can feel that.
Mhm.
And so I feel like a big key, one of the keys that you were talking about is knowing the times and seasons. And all of us we can know the times and seasons, right?
Yep. Yep.
Um, Tracy does a lot with um, equipping the body in the prophetic, and that is hearing the voice of God. And
Mhm.
so, we both know this, but that's something that she trains on. And so
Yeah.
she knows that all can hear the voice of God, and that all can know the times and seasons, right?
Yeah. Because even a right word in a wrong time is still the wrong word. because it has to be the right word in the right time.
Right.
And I think in the same way, I think of paces the same way.
Mhm.
It's God giving us the right words at the right time that allows us to, walk in tandem with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember, and just I feel like a few of our own, we've had God like speak uh, ahead of time, our pace, what it's about to be,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
and because because sometimes you can feel overwhelmed by the pace, and we both had experiences, and I want us both to
Yeah.
share on that, but both had experiences that if we did not hear from the Lord, we would have both been overwhelmed by our season, by our
Yeah.
pace, right? But he knew I need to tell them ahead of time. And and I believe that that is, uh, maybe we received it like, oh, yes, that's a thing. Because uh, just being open to knowing, okay, God does speak. And so that's one thing I feel like we want to give you. God does speak, and you can hear him in so many ways. Um, but tell them about when God talked to you about the mini hats
Yes.
before this pace change.
Yeah. So before my life got full of the things that I'm doing right now, I was given a word of encouragement, and this person she saw me wearing many hats, and she's like, she saw dozens of hats, and the encouragement was it in the natural, like if you were to look at that situation without partnering with God, you would think there's no way
Mhm.
that me as a person would be able to function in that capacity. But partnering with God, seeing that he was going to give me grace for every single hat,
Yeah.
um, kind of allowed me to see that God was in it. And I think there's a difference between me trying to put all those hats on myself,
Yeah.
because if anyone who's listening is like me, you like to do a lot of different things, and you enjoy, you like, I'm changing
Mhm.
the world, kind of
Yes.
thing.
Oh.
You can put hats on yourself, but the fact that it was I didn't do that. The Lord was showing me my season coming up. And so that
Right.
allowed me to walk through that. And, it's interesting because 2 years later, or maybe 2.5, that pace has kind of changed now.
Mhm.
And he has shown me that some of those hats now, it's time for them to come off. So it wasn't a forever thing. So I think it's really is good to check in when
Mhm.
you're running in a pace, to
Yeah.
go, am I still supposed to be running at this pace? Just because
Yeah.
he said it that time doesn't mean it's like a forever.
And
And
that goes back.
sometimes it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and that goes back to the whole, the word, what you just said about a word in season, a word now. What did you say?
Yeah. That the right word at the wrong time is still the wrong word, but the right word at the right time is the right word.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember when you got that word, you were not actually wearing all these hats at that time.
Correct.
So God
This
prepared
was
you ahead
free.
of
Yeah.
time. And
Hmm.
then if the thing about God's word, and when God gives us a word like that to prepare us, it's not only, I believe it's not only it's, yes, it's for you, but anyone else looking in that would be leading you or anything, or even speaking your life in any way, could have been like, nah, that's too much. But
Yeah.
God already spoke prior. No, this
Yeah.
is going to be Tracy's pace,
Yeah. And there's grace for that.
and there is grace for that.
Yeah.
So God will, like, so the title being God has a pace for you is God literally does have a pace for you. He will prepare you beforehand. but it's not always. Sometimes he will tell you in the moment, and
Mm-hmm.
even sometimes, like, I feel like even if he's strengthening you with something, he might tell you after, hey, just I want to show you something. But he knows you, and he knows what you need. He knew that Tracy
Yeah.
would need that word prior.
Hmm.
And I also do believe being open to the prophetic is big. Being
For
open to
real. Yeah.
hearing, being open to words, being uh, you know, around that, and like really embracing the prophetic, I feel like is a big thing with that. But he knows your season. He has a pace for you wherever you are right now. And we want to encourage you again that um, you can know the times and seasons. You can ask God, what do I need to know about my pace right now? If you're feeling overwhelmed, or you're feeling like your pace is slowed down, and then maybe you feel that maybe it feels like failure, because I
Mm-hmm.
for for me, a slowing down of pace is like, I that that could be presented to me as being delayed, or you're delaying yourself, or all those
Yeah.
things. So there are those two kind of things. Um, when he
It's
gave
good.
me a word, he gave me a dream, and he said I was about to sprint. Well, I wasn't
That's
sprinting at that
right.
time. But he prepared me to go, get ready, because you're about to sprint. So when I started to sprint, when that started coming and I knew it was a sprint, I knew that I should be doing that. If I did not have that
Good.
word prior, I would have thought that I was going too fast, hitting it too hard, running too, like, and a sprint is really fast for a short period of time, right? It's that, like,
Yeah.
so not only did he prepare me so I knew that I wasn't out of, pace with him, he also encouraged me it's going to end. This, like,
Yes.
fast, fast, fast will end. So, you know, it he does prepare us. So in that, we want to encourage you to, wherever you are, uh, you know, take that time to ask him about your pace, whatever your pace is right now. Ask him to show you something about it. Ask him to give you a word, about your pace. And God might speak to you in so many different ways. He might give you a word that you have to look up the meaning. He might give you a scripture.
Mm-hmm.
But ask him, and then start looking for that, so that you know your pace, and that you're not, you can really, like, partner that with the Lord.
I can,
So
can
go ahead. Yeah,
Oh,
go
I
ahead.
wanted to just there's a comment on here
Okay, cool.
by a friend of ours, Pastor Chuck Ammon, said spot on. The only thing that keeps us from leaning on the only thing that keeps us from leaning on our own understanding is
Mm.
hearing his voice. His leading isn't always logical.
I
And I
love
really like that he said that. Yeah.
that. Is so good. That is
It's
so
not,
true,
yeah.
man.
It's not always logical when if he's saying sprint and you're like gasping for
Yeah.
air. Um, yeah,
And
I really
yeah,
like that.
that's so good, Chuck. Because it's not always logical. And even I think it's beautiful, because, like, Tracy had that word about the mini hats, like the 12 hats and all these. And Tracy told me the word that she got. I immediately knew. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's a word. That's coming." Like, and we agreed together. And then when she was in that time of it actually coming to pass, when she was like,
Yeah.
"Remember that word?" I was like, "Yes, we're seeing it come to pass." So that's where I say that the word is not always only for you, but it's all also for those that will speak into your life, because they get to agree with the word of the Lord, and not speak the opposite of it. Because naturally, they might look in at Tracy and go, "You're wearing too many hats. You cannot do all that." But
Yeah.
Tracy gets to go, "No, I need you to know what God spoke." and you can feel God's word too. So the same thing, with the word that God spoke to me about sprinting, I can go, no, God actually said I was about to sprint. And then it makes sense. It doesn't mean it makes sense, but it makes sense because I love that. The only thing that keeps us from leaning on our own understanding is hearing his voice. Yeah, we need his voice. His
Yep.
voice really is the key, and he will show you different things through that. So I wanted to ask you, Tracy, uh, have you ever compared your pace to another?
Girl.
I love it. Let's talk about that, because and I want to put this out there, just because you hear the voice of God, just because are following Christ, all those things does not mean that you're not presented to compare your pace. And it doesn't mean that you don't for a moment compare your pace, or even for longer. So let's get into that. Have you ever compared your pace? So I want to know about that.
Yeah. Well,
How'd you handle it?
when I first, I just want to say we're all called to run as giants in
Yeah.
this land, as entrepreneurs, we, that's just who we are, And so I didn't always know that. So when I first started getting around people who were, I was comparing myself like, oh my gosh, so that was extremely challenging, and it took some time to really kind of figure out, well, who am I and where am I in all this, and what is God's plan for me. But what's really cool is I used to be a runner, and so God used the analogy of a runner for me. So just like a runner, every runner's different.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a pace that's right for each runner, and it doesn't look the same. And it's the same thing for us, for our life. Like there's, specific assignments that God has for us that's unique to our life's rhythm.
Yeah.
And so refocusing by stepping into the rhythm and not stepping into someone else's, I think is what I learned. Like if you look at runners and how different they are, even in how they posture themselves, it's so different because it's so unique, because your pace is unique to you, to your life, to what he has called you to your entrepreneurial assignments, and the things that he has for you to do. Even if you're in the same industry, it's going to look different for you because you are uniquely you. So that's kind of my experience with that. But it was brutal in the beginning because I was doing a lot of comparing, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing anything, and that's what it felt like. And so I just learned, I learned from experience. And I hope whoever's listening will learn from my mistakes and not have to learn the hard way, because that was a difficult time for me of just comparing myself. And the only mirror I need to look into is not someone else's life, but the mirror is, looking at God. Okay, God, you and me, what are we doing together?
Yeah, because I agree. You can look at now. I feel like something you can do is it not comparing, because you do need to be looking. Okay, what are we doing here? It looks different, but you can be inspired, and you can
That's good.
like, oh, that's possible. And then
There's
you
a
can take it and
difference.
go, okay, that's possible. And that speaks to me, but what does it still look like for me?
Right.
Yeah.
Like writing a book. I was inspired that I could do that, but how it came to be is going to be vastly different from someone else. Yeah. That's good, Kimberly.
Your pace, your process is different. I've compared my pace with other like high producers, because I had seasons where I was like I've had seasons where it's like you feel like you are producing a lot, and then I've had seasons where it's like you don't feel that way, and that's where your pace can change depending on what God is needing
Yeah.
uh, to do. Sometimes he will even move your pace to like a slower pace so that you prepare you because you're about to go into a really fast pace. Give you
Yeah.
some time to like breathe, give you some time to, like really like maybe
Recovery.
be quiet. Yeah, like quiet or things like that. But the thing that has been presented to me is, uh, you know, when I'm not like pumping out all this stuff like fast,
Hmm.
to uh, when I see others and it's like, pumping out courses, books, 3 times to my one, like things like that. Um, when my pace is shifted and
Yeah.
for a moment I'm presented with delay or, oh, you're just a procrastinator or that kind of thing. That's what's like presented out here. And I have to, how I handle it and refocus is go, I talk to God about it like
Yeah.
that now. Before I didn't really know to talk to God about it, but um I just kind of like go, no, that's their pace. That is what God is speaking to them, and everything that God has for me will be fulfilled.
Yeah.
I need to, and that's where I can go. I feel like, um, when you practice something or you do something over and over, it does become like your habit or your lifestyle
Yeah.
or
You
what
get
you
rhythm.
yeah, it
Yeah.
becomes like that rhythm.
Hmm.
And so maybe that is something you go through and you're like, well, how do I keep going back to that? I keep going back to that. And I I want to encourage you that I believe, like for me, how I changed my response to things was just starting. I would just start and I would be like, Lord, I want to respond differently. And so I would step out and I would respond differently, like
No,
not
good.
prepare.
Yeah.
And then if I
Good.
did, then I would just do it again and I would do it
Yeah.
again. And it became like my rhythm.
Yeah.
It became that.
And I noticed that that also applies to being on a team. I
Yeah.
feel like it's really
Yes.
important if you're listening and you work together in a team.
Yeah.
Like I work in teams, that's what I do,
You do.
in ministry and in business. And there is a pace set sometimes in a team. And I want to encourage you that God gives us the capacity to do that together.
Come
And
on.
it's almost like a flock, when you see the flock, flying over and they fly in that V formation. There's someone at the front who's
Come on.
leading, right? And everyone else is, and if someone kind of gets behind, you can, I've seen it. Their pace adjusts a little bit, but they are going to be the ones that know the pace that you're supposed to be in. And it's just finding the rhythm on your team as well. And I think that's super important to know.
That that is beautiful, Tracy.
Yeah.
That if God puts you within a team, if you're within a team, he will give you the ability to go at the pace that you're within and he will adjust and he will, and just like you're saying, that flock, that
Hmm.
you will be able to, if you feel like, oh, I'm kind of like lagging or whatever,
Yeah.
it's like, nope, let's go, okay, and you all
Yeah.
go together. Oh my gosh, that is such a good word, and absolutely true. And I feel like, I mean,
No bird
um,
left behind. No
no
free
bird
bird
left
left
behind.
behind.
We will swarm around and get you. Yeah, that is so good. I feel like even for that's a word for the Oh Free Bird Fly team. So thank you. But that's a word for all of you out there with
Yeah.
just with teams. And if you're, you know, on a team, if you're like the leading, like, responsible for a team or whatever, and if you're within a team, you are all together, but you might be the one that has to make the all the, know the pace and make the decisions. And but yeah, that's such a good word, Tracy. Thank you for sharing
Yeah,
that. I think that's a
definitely.
great encouragement that you've been given the capacity. Uh, it reminds me of just the story about the talents, and that I
Mhm.
love something I discovered is that uh, it says that God gave them according to their ability.
Yes. Oh,
Come on.
he's
I
so
know,
good.
Tracy, that just like hits my heart.
Yes.
He gives according to your ability.
Yeah, he
So,
doesn't go, hey, up here, hit the mark, or
no,
else.
no. He
Yeah.
gave them different amounts according to their ability. And I feel like that changes too.
Mm-hmm.
Your
Our
pace changes,
abilities do change.
your
Yeah.
season changes, and it's okay. So we want to bring encouragement to you that there's like, embrace the pace, embrace your season, embrace where you are. I know, embrace what he's showing you, and
Embrace the pace.
embrace the pace. That's where we are. We're embracing
Hashtag.
hashtag embrace the pace. Um, but he has a pace for you. And uh, just my I want to bring you encouragement that um because we're all different in what is going on.
Yeah.
And usually what I've seen happen to me is that I'll be running, and then God shifts my pace, cuts drastically. And I've noticed that when I was putting this together, some of the things I noticed that, oh, like the last four shifts or whatever in my pace were all like that. They were like,
Yeah.
"Whoop, okay, let's cut it down." And so I have absolutely experienced where I felt like, uh, that changed. And I'm like, what is going on? Did I do something wrong? Am I out of pace with the Lord, and all of that? But you get to
Mm-hmm.
go back and go, oh God, can you show me and remind me? And he does that. Um,
Yeah.
he encourages you and tells you, no, this is what we're doing. Yeah. So from there, um, I want to ask you, Tracy, what would your encouragement be for the women as we close?
I think that, I was looking at one of the scriptures that's in Matthew 16:3. He talks about people knowing how to interpret the weather, but they
Mm.
don't know the times and seasons. And it
Well,
it can sound harsh in the scripture, but the way I read it, because he's a good father,
yeah.
is that I want you to know that. I want you to know times and seasons is invaluable. And so my encouragement is, it starts there. I think that we can determine our pace, we can discern our pace based on the times and seasons that God shows us that we're in. And I just think that's such a huge key. And I just encourage you guys to pray about that and think about that and talk with the Lord about that. What does that mean to you? What does that look like to you? And how will he show you your times and seasons? And I think just really starting from there is a great place to start. If you're going to start somewhere, start knowing what is the season of your life. Because if you're in a season of rest, he's not going to have you run.
Right.
So
Right.
knowing step one is knowing your time and your season.
Yeah.
When my kids were little, it wasn't my time to run.
Oh,
It was time to be a mom and be in that realm. It wasn't time for me to run in what I'm running in now. It wasn't my time, and I kept trying to make it my time.
mhm.
So I think that's a really just good first step for us.
That is a great, yeah. I feel like we're gonna have another conversation on this. Like, how do you how do you how do you move together and be with each other, like friends and stuff like that, when you have a different pace or a different season? And
Yeah,
how do you support each other? And we're gonna that's something we're gonna talk
that's a
about,
good combo. Yeah.
right? That's a good thing.
Mhm.
That's beautiful. So I hope that encouraged you guys, and it encouraged me. I know that it will encourage you. Some encouragement for me would be that your pace is by His design.
Mm,
That it's not failure in any way.
come
Uh,
on.
it's not a demotion. It's not anything like that. It is by His design. It's intentional for your future, for your now, for your future. All
Yeah.
the things, all the promises, all the dreams that are in your heart.
Yeah.
Um, don't don't look at don't allow your pace to look at your pace to be what you determine if those will be fulfilled,
Mm,
because he know that I feel like don't look at those as a delay or a failure or whatever if it slows down. Um, look at it as a blessing that, oh, know that his pace for you is good, and
yeah.
that it's all part of, he is for you always. He is for you, and he knows what you need, and he's uh gracious to give us what we need in in
Yeah.
in every season, and all of our pace, and that it's going to benefit you and it's going to bless you, because he is about that. Says that he has lavished on us every spiritual blessing. So he's
Yeah.
lavished on us already. um
Can I
so
clarify
yeah,
something I said
yeah,
about when my
absolutely.
kids were little? I don't
Yeah,
want to mean to anyone who has small children that you cannot, run at a pace as an entrepreneur or a woman in ministry, leading a
yeah,
ministry,
yeah.
and have a family. I'm not saying that.
No,
I'm not saying it at all. I'm just noticing there was a different pace in my life. So I just wanted to make that clear in case anyone heard what I was, heard something I wasn't saying. So I
yeah,
hope
I
that
agree,
clarifies
Tracy.
that.
No,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
It's Yeah, it could just look different than what you're used to, and I think that it's good to talk about that,
Yeah.
because you know, so I feel like sometimes, not all the time, sometimes when, and that is another conversation that we should have, but sometimes you can feel like, um, uh, you know, it's different, and you can feel like maybe you're missing out, but you're not missing out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what you're, yeah, saying.
Yeah.
It is an encouragement. That was very encouraging. All right, so we hope that this conversation on God's pace for you blessed you, and that you felt encouraged, and that you were able to take away just some things that you can put into practice for your life, and that you would ask the Lord, what what is my pace for the time I'm in right now? What is the times and seasons? Will you show me? And
Yeah.
just do that little activation in asking the Lord, and we believe that He's going to show you, and he will do it in many ways. He can do it through a dream, a word from someone else. He can give you a word awake,
Absolutely.
a knowing within, a picture, a
The
sign,
scripture.
a
Yeah.
scripture. He can do it in so many ways. And so, if you are looking for more encouragement like this, and you're looking for a community of, uh, Christian female entrepreneurs that are really those kingdom female entrepreneurs, you can join us in our Oh Free Bird Fly community, which is a free community group here on Facebook. And it's just a place that you will find more encouragement to really just encourage you to continue on with your dream, your business, or your ministry. And you can do that by searching either in groups, Oh Free Bird Fly Community, or going to our main page and looking in the groups, and you'll find it there. Just ask to join. We would love to have you with us. And we bless your dream, your business, and or your ministry. And we will see you next time, Free Birds. Bye.
Bye.